Welcome to the Copilot Connection.
We're here to share with you all the news, insights and capabilities of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem from across the entire Microsoft stack. I'm Zoe Wilson and I'm the Global Digital Workplace Services Consult Lead at Kyndryl. I'm a Regional Director and an MVP for Copilot.
I'm Kevin McDonald, an MVP for Copilot and Copilot Extensibility, and I'm also the UK Copilot and Agents Lead at Avanade here in the UK. We'll be releasing episodes as podcasts and on YouTube with insights from experts from across the community and Microsoft on what the different areas of Copilot and Agents are, the impact they can make to you and your organisation, what you need to do to prepare for them or start implementing them now, and even how you can extend them.
So this week we are delighted to have a very special guest joining us who both Kevin and I have had the pleasure of working with for quite some time. We're also going to make one of our friends, Chris Jones, very cross that we've not invited him to join this conversation, but we'll look forward to giving him that update afterwards.
I only left that bit in the notes as a joke, so thank you for calling that out as well.
Yeah, I thought it was
true.
Too good an opportunity to pass up on. Now, for those of you who've been listening for a while, you'll know that one of the things I get quite passionate about is the fact that for Copilot AI, agentic technology to be successful, we really need people to go on this journey with us, and that involves them building their Copilot muscle or AI muscle. And I am delighted, Diana, that you have come to join us because you are an expert in this field. Do you want to give a quick intro for our listeners?
Yeah, of course, I would love to. An expert in the field, but not an expert at intros, so bear with me here. Currently, I am the head of research and strategy at Kyndryl at Consult, where I'm overseeing our Kyndryl Institute research and a number of other initiatives across the organization. And some of those do involve what the problem space we're going to talk about today, which is AI implementation and the methodology with which we help organizations achieve that AI value they're seeking to unlock. In my free time, I've also obtained a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, so my mother calls me Dr. Wolfe, and I teach statistics and regression specifically. In addition to that, I do raise genetically modified crops and rare designer chickens. So if you have any questions about any of those domains today, I think we could really expand the purview of Copilot Connection.
Can I just check? That's not a joke. You really do.
So I immediately have lots of questions about designer chickens.
Yeah.
I have a lot of answers, but maybe that's chicken connection.
Now there's an idea.
Yeah.
I'd never thought of that, Kevin. Like, what other offshoots can we spin out of this?
Okay, let's stop that. You know how my brain goes off in different tangents. It's now going, oh yeah, we could. No. I'm looking at. I actually have a can of Spam up there. The Spam connection. That would just be perfect.
I'm not so sure about that one, but anyway, so one of the things we wanted to talk about was this AI transformation and implementation gap. When you look at the research in this space, Diana, and what you've seen with clients and some of the initiatives you've been involved in, what do you see happening? Why is there a gap, and what does that gap look like?
Yeah. So let's talk external to what I've seen with clients and just what the industry noise is right now. My prediction is that we're going to hear a lot about workflow automation being able to unlock this implementation gap. And what I'm talking about is implementation gap is the amount of organizations that are implementing AI. And that can be different strategies and different models and different types of AI. It can be agents, it can be personal augmentation tools, it can be a number of things that they're struggling to realize the value when they go and they look back at how did this work for me, right? There's the famous MIT paper now that came out. It was 95% of organizations struggle. And then the focus on frontier firms and how do they get to that point? How do you become one? There's all of this noise happening around this space.
I think even what on earth is a frontier firm as well is
Yes,
a good conversation.
That's right. And what is your firm's frontier? I think is a better way to position that, right? Like, what's the frontier for your firm? There's all of this noise that's happening in this convergent way. And then when we get into conversations with clients, those are real impacts that they're seeing. They're saying, what is this displacement risk for me? What is the value I get back? What am I locking into as potentially a platform, or as tokenization is difficult for me to capture? But then it becomes, why aren't my people using these tools? Where's my adoption at? How am I upskilling my talent in order for them to be able to understand these outputs right? Because if it comes through your company, you're maybe a little bit more likely to trust the output of that AI and to think it's enterprise guarded and protected, and it doesn't have the folly of the things that you might use as an individual consumer, and you think you're a little bit more protected. So there's trust that we need to really calibrate, and part of that's education and part of that's skill. Yeah.
Do you think that's true? Because I think there's a lot of cynicism that people working in companies have of, oh, look, here's another tool. It's not going to do what I want and things like that. I'd much rather go out there and use ChatGPT because I've seen good results from that. So I kind of get what you're saying. Certainly those in the know of trusting and being secure in their data. I think a lot of the general public just want the quality and don't always see that from the enterprise tools.
I think it is true in the context of, as we're looking at agentic AI deployments increasing in frequency and our agents talking to each other, some black boxing and the information surfacing to us from a process we previously trusted, it looks right enough. So I think when we get to those layers of abstraction away from work, it becomes more true. It's easier to control when it's one-on-one tooling, but when we get to those layers, it gets more complicated.
Yeah. So one of the things I always find interesting to think about is when you look at the spend on AI technology that's anticipated. I think they're saying like within the next few years, people are going to be spending a third of their budgets or something like that on AI. So this is significant spend. And there's this assumption that people have made that AI is going to solve all of their problems. And for anyone who's familiar with some of the original episodes of South Park, there's the underpant gnomes, and they had this equation where they had underpants, profit. It feels a little bit like that, where people think they're going to get AI, some stuff's going to happen, and then they're going to have this like magically transformed organization where everybody's doing different jobs and, everybody has different skills. And it's that bit in the middle that it feels like people have put it in the too hard box because they don't understand what they need to do to get from underpants to profit.
Sorry, hang on. I thought we had Dr. Wolfe here. I was really looking forward to the highbrow nature of this. We've had chicken connection, underpants, and it's not even my fault entirely this time.
This is science, Kevin.
It's a mathematical equation. What more do you want?
True. I do like it.
We're just missing some variables, but that variable is the gap. That's the space to be solved for, right? Like industries are defaulting to some bolt-on thinking of, okay, we've done it. Show me the money, right? Like that's been the song of 2025 in our AI journey. And I'm actually very concerned that we're going to position workflow automation as the solution to it. Okay, you had problems with value realization. That was because everyone was just using their own AI. What if we did this whole process and whole big thing for you with agents, and then you'll get the value, right? And how are we actually, is that really just workforce displacement we're measuring as value then? What are we measuring? Is the work quality going up? Is it bottom line metrics? So this is the gap that we are talking about today.
I think I love that you were talking about sort of measuring value and getting towards your goals. I think this is a fundamental issue I've had for years, that we keep kind of bringing new technology. I think about the pandemic and teams coming in, transforming how we can work from home and things in there. But all we did was have more meetings, more get together. We didn't actually look at what organizations were actually trying to achieve apart from at the very top level. And I kind of hope again that we start to look at that with AI, with this agentic transformation. Why are you doing it? Why are you bringing these things in? I don't know why I'm that naive to think these things will change, but I think that is the important, to actually think about what your goals are, what it is that you want to get from this, and then measure how successful you are towards this as well. And that's and being honest and open about what those goals are, not just saying it's money. Exactly what you're saying there. It's not saving money, therefore we need to just cut people from it. It's what are you trying to achieve? Are you increasing quality of what you get? I was chatting with someone the other day, and they really feel that with AI, they're not necessarily saving time. Actually, they're spending more time, but the amount of stuff they're getting out is getting faster and faster from there. So no one's getting to relax more. They're just doing more. Is it in the right direction? They couldn't really say. And I think that says a lot as well.
And your friend would be supported by recent data, specifically in developers, right? That are having to spend more time going back and reworking and reformatting and recontextualizing the output.
Yeah, I was reading something the other day. I wish I could remember where I'd seen it, but it was saying that we're starting to see people with more executive burnout because the more they offload to their AI companion or AI solutions, whatever that looks like in their workday, the more decisions they're having to make, the more cognitive load they've got in terms of reviewing and approving and things like that. So I think we'll start to see some interesting trends in the people impact of this as well if we're not looking at how we actually do some of the integration that's needed.
Yeah, and I want to hit on that integration with people point you're bringing up, right? Like traditionally, when we've done change, we maybe view it as potentially the adoption of a new tool, like we've talked about potentially bolting it onto this process and this. I don't think that that is a sustainable practice, and I know that anyone who's doing change right now sees the gaps and sees the problems. There's been movement at the thought leadership level across the field on what we should be doing, and there's fun things like, you know, trust frameworks and psychological safety role identity evaluation, but those are just at the abstract thought leadership level. We need to start be making strides towards methodologically creating these things, measuring them, and then embedding them into what we do. We need a much more holistic process. So when someone is shifting from a doer to, I'm not going to say agent boss, but a supervisor of agents, right? We're not managing resistance to a new tool if they don't want to use it. We are looking at fundamentally redesigning their job, their skills, the value proposition they have at an organization. That's a process transition, but it's a psychological transition. And it's a professional identity. It's a sense of meaning. And all of that's on the table when we talk about this. So if you go, what's the value gap? You don't need to think just organizationally. You need to think about the people that are in the process still too. What's the value gap to them?
Yeah, and for people who've trained for, if they've got a very specialist job, they've trained for a long time, something they're very passionate about, it's going to be perceived as a threat when they're asked to start thinking about the role that they play and the work that they do in a different way. And I've got two questions for you, Diana. The first one is kind of really for those people who are working in the change management discipline today, and kind of anything you've come across in your research or any guidance you give to people that helps them get into the right mindset to be able to drive this work. And then on the flip side, for those people who are going through the process of having to integrate with these new AI processes and systems, anything on that side as well from an individual level that you've seen that can kind of help people think about this differently? Because there's huge opportunity on both sides.
I think so, definitely. So let me start from the change in OCM perspective. Legacy OCM, I would say, was problematic for the bolt-on solutioning we've talked about. And I'm going to, in simple terms, we have a solution we need to solve for. We've implemented a tool. Now we're going to train people how to do it. We're going to measure if they use it. And then we're going to say, cool dashboards, we've done it. And it was actually it was important work that we did. It's not enough in agentic AI. It's not enough when we look at it because we're talking about much deeper level transformation and transition. So we need to look at governance patterns. We need to look at decision rights. We need to look at cognitive fatigue of the individual. If we are if you look at an org chart, you have someone's role and you have three human team members and 15 agents under them. Can they really supervise the output of that? Is that feasible? And we also have to look at decision-making gateways when we do it. So we have to bring change into the technology cycle. It needs to be part of the build and the design when we do this. It cannot be separate. Otherwise, we're going to risk creating bigger and bigger gaps, and people are going to be not only left behind, but also we get to that place of, Kevin, you were talking about, oh, this is just another thing and it's going to make my life harder, right? And so uniquely, I would argue that people in OCM have part of that skill set. Right? People that are doing that change have part of that skill set. They have the understanding, they have the centering. We need to look at repositioning the value proposition of OCM, technical upskilling in what they're looking at doing, but also really evolving our own mental models of how deep this change goes, because it goes a lot deeper than people are expecting.
It's that
So that's
kind of
one
thing, that
question.
culture eats change for breakfast, phrase that goes out there, that I think that OCM needs to focus a lot more on that culture of things versus the kind of hardcore this is what you do side of it. So it's that mentality of thinking about how you do things that's shifting so much, and I think is the harder aspect of it as well. I was laughing with a colleague when a client If anyone wants a game of poker, I am absolutely your man because my face gives it away completely. And he was making a comment at our organisation, we're really fast moving, we change very quickly. And the two of us caught each other's eye and we're trying desperately not to laugh at someone we've been trying
Yeah.
to drive this change for 2 years now on there that's to take place and things on there. So I think that mentality of people wanting to adopt, they can almost accept that technology, you know, moving of buttons, you can have a different color to this, they'll whinge about that, but will accept it, versus the changing your patterns of work is very hard for a lot of people as well. I think we kind of have to
Yeah.
take that thought of how you do it. It took me quite a long time to adopt to using Copilot. If I think about it, I'm really embracing coding agents and things for my play dev time and things like that now. It's taken me quite a long time to kind of accept that it makes sense, that it will work for me, even though I've read lots about it. And I kind of consider myself quite new to adopt this. I'm getting old and kind of past it slightly, but generally kind of I'm willing to adopt new ideas compared with a lot of other people. And I think it's going to take time too.
Yeah, I do. Sorry, go on, Diana.
I hit on that. I want to tell you a story, Kevin. Once upon a time, there was Diana Wolfe in the wild, right? And I ran a research study, which I'll give you the
Another good
link
name for
to.
a podcast.
Yeah. It's a competitor to the Chicken Connection.
Yeah.
I ran a research study on about over 2,000 developers and technologists. And we looked at the UTAUT, which is a well-known measurement tool for technology adoption and utility of the technology that we're deploying. And I looked at a previously debunked model of the UTAUT, which included emotional adoption, like barriers. And that was about, I would say, a year and a half ago, we looked at that. And we found actually that if we should reconcile even our measurement of adoption more holistically to some of the things you're talking about there, Kevin. Some of the things that come up that I don't like calling anyone a resistor. I really feel that Ford and Ford is a great research article if you want to know about resistance. No one is actively walking around saying, I'm a resistor, right? Unless I guess maybe they're very adamantly a Luddite. But the idea of a resistor and that is really just someone who doesn't understand or they're feeling threatened, and there's a number of cognitive schemas that they're going through in that change process, and we have to lock into it. So I can send you the article on that, but that's not where it stopped. If I could tell you I answered the question, use that scale, done, that's not where it stops. The second part of your question, Zoe, was what does the individual do, right? If OCM isn't answering these questions, OCM has a set of skills that can get us part of the way. It's not enough. We're looking at silo breaking across how we do this, right? We're looking at design. We're looking at bringing in technology, and we're looking at going across a spectrum of skills and creating what is called a composite role or potentially a skill profile to do delivery. MIT recently identified human systems as the main pain point for the delivery and is the real gap to, it's not the technical tools, it's how you work with your human systems, which you could call culture, Kevin. That's a byproduct of the human system, right? And so what we need to really focus on for the individual is also thinking to yourself a little bit about maybe I'm going to break out of my silo in this role during this change. Zoe, you talked about, someone's created expertise, they've curated their career in that. Daniela Amodi talks about we need to bring humanities into the future of work, and that's going to be more centered on it. I would argue that's not enough. Those humanities are going to converge, right? I'm an industrial organizational psychologist. I'm half data, half psychology, and the third half is business, I guess. So all of those things are silo breaking to create this composite skill set. That's what we need to do to think holistically about this, because it's not enough. If we could have realized the value of AI with the structures and the way we do delivery, we would have already.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, what is it? It's more than 3 years since ChatGPT hit the mainstream. Looking at the date, people have been wrestling with this from that very first year. It was very early in the Copilot era that people, and even with people building stuff with Azure OpenAI, that the question almost instantly goes to value, ROI, customer outcomes. And to your point, I think that there's a few different challenges here. One is that the current methods we have for doing this are not fit for purpose in the agentic era. I've forgotten what the other one was. Brain just went. It's Friday night, isn't it? It's in the UK. It's Friday night.
We talked
It's
about
that giant Negroni you're having, Zoe. I know the truth.
Yeah, this
We
was a
talked about the
broken
systems
bit.
are not fit for
Broken
purpose,
bit.
and then reimagining your role effectively, right? Reimagining work.
I think the problem is because a lot of you talk about human systems, but organizational systems, traditionally people love those silos. People want to sit in those hierarchies because they kind of feel, yes, I'm this, I am this within there, I'm this within team, I feel this identity. And you know, we reward, certainly in consulting, we reward a lot of areas by those different areas. And the second you start trying to break those barriers down, that people can get very defensive of that as well. If they don't see a clear view coming out of it, it can scare people as well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's scary because people need to be able to see themselves in where
Yeah.
things are going, and there are a lot of unknowns at the moment. And I did remember where I was going with my second point, which is if you think of the two challenges, the second is the technical solution for what we're doing is multifaceted. It requires us to layer and integrate technology at an extent that we haven't had to do before. And if you think about this just in terms of the Microsoft ecosystem alone, you've got, you know, the stuff that sits in what was modern work, business applications, you've got Azure, security, like all of these things need to integrate and work seamlessly together. And you've got enterprise organizations who are wrestling with this for various different reasons, whether it's that, you know, they've got various different states of maturity or risk or issues in their implementation. You've got organizations like Microsoft who struggle because they're very siloed in the way that they run their business and the way that they build these products. And then you've got organizations like SIs and partners who are also siloed and who are also having to work together in a new and different way. So you've got challenges and silos in the way products are being built, in the way that they're being kind of implemented or sold to clients, in the way that they're being implemented inside clients, in the impact this is having on people's jobs. And then we've got functions like OCM that are not yet modernized and able to provide that support across this stack and this chain of problems in the way that we need them to do.
And they have to reconcile across the level of OCM, has to reconcile across the level of asks, right? There's this big, larger organizational change layer. There's the what does our organizational shape look like? And then what do people look like when they do that? And then how do we make sure that that's aligned with the tech tools, right? So how's our process and our people all funneling with tech tools? These are spaces that it's not unique to any one organization. The industry itself is suffering. And to your point, Kevin, you said something about consulting. Consulting has lived in a world of information arbitrage benefit, right? Like it is this asymmetrical, like we have these really cool frameworks and all these cool smart people that have things that you don't, and you should come pay us to do that. AI kind of broke that silo, right? It went through the ivory tower of the entire organization. And so if you can imagine the silos within a field like consulting would also suffer some of those effects because we have to evolve.
I was just pondering, you're talking about the frameworks and kind of going through the partners. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble saying this. It has been known on occasion that partners sell things that they're not actually using internally because they haven't quite got round to it and haven't done the translation, but are encouraging others to do that. But I feel with AI, actually, people are adopting those tools and taking them on first and then training them up. I'd need to ponder that a little bit more and think if that's true, but more so than many other technologies that we've seen, possibly Teams as a disruptor. But even in the early day of Teams, I remember many partners, because I was on the other side of the fence, would be saying, yeah, you really want to use Teams? Great, let's have a Skype call to talk about it. Things are there. Whereas I feel a lot of companies are getting on board with Copilot, are really trying things out with AI and doing that experimentation and working them where it works for them and then rehearsing that for others a little bit more as well. I don't know what you two think about that, but
it's because of this underpants gnome equation. Everyone is so worried that there is profit at the end of it.
You call it UGE, the UGE. Yeah.
Everybody has got FOMO. There was just so much pressure in the system, like so much motivation. Everybody just had to figure out what this meant for them. You know, the customer organizations were the ones. I mean, I was in a call just 2 weeks ago with a client where we were talking to IT and they were saying, yeah, our board have basically said we're behind everybody else on AI. So, you know, we basically need to do some stuff. So this FOMO has been, it's been there the whole time. I'm amazed it's still there because I thought everyone would have been a little bit further ahead by now. But yeah, like There's no holding back on this, and you can't be credible as a trusted advisor to clients if you are not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I smile because that's how Zoe and I came together, right? We came together through a Client Zero initiative for Copilot, full circle now, where we were really leading this idea of if we measure it, then we can understand it, then we can show. And I think in terms of the life cycle of technology as an industry, Gen AI came on the back of the metaverse, which was, we're all in a VR space right now, right?
What's the metaverse?
So, and it's not to pick on the metaverse. I love it. I think that we should recategorize FOMO, Zoe, as failure of measurement operations, right? Like we need to, it's no longer fear of missing out. It's failure of measurement operations. Like we're not doing it.
I love it.
Every now and then I hear people say things like, please tell me Riverside picks that out as a nice LinkedIn clip.
It would be very cool if it started letting you prompt it for insights and clips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Riverside, if you're listening.
We're talking about the platform.
Yeah, I think you can. Anyway, the thing is, I know it's going to try and recommend to me that we cut this clip out. It sounds like you're discussing back-end stuff. No. We love that chat on the podcast.
Yeah, I guess for the people at home, we don't lock Kevin in a basement and make him edit clips. We've they use a different tool, right?
Yes, exactly. We don't have basements in the UK, so I'm allowed to sit on the sofa.
And if we do have them, we call them sellers instead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just keep wining them. It's more important.
That's what I was going to say. Only in the context of wine do we have cellars here. I have a basement. If I put wine in it, it's a cellar.
It's a wine cellar, yeah.
Or potentially roots, I guess.
Yeah. So just going back to kind of the research perspective, Diana, when we think about all of these different, I mean, well, there are a lot of different challenges here and there are a lot of different silos. But when we think about all of these siloed domains and this need to really anchor around the human when we're looking at implementing and transforming with AI, where do you see the opportunity? Like, where do you think people need to get started or focus with this?
It depends on your entry point. If you are an individual just listening right now and wondering what this means for you and your workflow, I would encourage you to have an out of work experience, okay? And have it with these guidance points. What do I do in my job that is fulfilling, that intrinsically rewarding thing? That thing you should create automation to get more of, right? But what do I do in my job that makes me better at my job, right? I do long form writing as my form of thinking. And if you've been a colleague of mine, you've gotten probably an 8-page paper that I would consider really short and a brief. But if I don't do that, and I go to talk about something, I won't be able to recall it. I won't be able to, it's how I store information. And AI is very adept at long form writing. It could very easily write 8 pages for me. So understanding your own, processes and what you're doing, do a self audit before we even start to go, okay, now we need to look at my workflow. Where can I put agents here? What can they do for me? Start from there. And then realize organizationally, do the same thing. Okay, if we are having, let's give an example of a identity verification process. Okay, we're having an identity verification process for a specific client and they want to go and they want to automate the entire thing where the user just uploads a picture and then all the credentialing is done in the background, which usually would have been 3-4 different people. We're going to assume a couple of things when we say we want to do that. We're assuming that the process works as we said it did. And it's not Trish in accounting talks to, Daniel in credentialing and they have lunch on a Thursday and they rubber stamp things together, right? There's a difference between what we're automating and what we do. You need to reconcile that. And then when you reconcile that, you need to put the limiters in there for where you want those decisions to be automated or not. There's a place. I'm not going to give up long form writing. You probably shouldn't give up some of the governance that you do when you automate something. So organizationally, think about that. And that sounds simple, but there's also, that really gets to your ethos of an organization, your risk tolerances, how many decisions you should let an AI make. And it doesn't have to be the only time you set the process. The problem when we get to agents and process is something I call paradigmatic lock-in, which is an easy term to understand. But what that means is you're basically creating a repetition of something that maybe you needed to evolve. Or when we do 3, 4, 5 other automations, let's return back to this one and see, should we do it differently? Or I'm not ready to let, Daniel from credentialing, completely go. I want to phase this automation, right? And then he's going to up level and I need 10 under him. Okay, well then do a build for phase 1 automation, but have a plan for phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So in a nutshell, that's what you should be doing. Yeah.
You make it sound so easy.
Oh, yeah. But I think one thing I've seen work really well is you say have a plan for phase 1, 2, and 3, etc. That fully agree on that. But as you get near to those phases, just have a look at those, see what's worked well, do that measurement. And yeah, I love what you were saying about kind of investing more long form, what writing works for you. Where you see those things work, invest more in that, focus more on those success areas, and where things aren't working so well, yeah, go fuck it, throw that out the window and get these things, be a little bit more agile in a way with this as well.
And I firmly believe in something I call the problem proximity model, which is a very simple idea of a visual of a target, right? And we want to move toward the center of it with our human capital. And we want them to get close to that center. And that center is novelty, that center is creative thinking. It's the story of human flourishing in the era of AI. And the fringe is the work we do that is mundane, that should be automated. Really ask yourselves, if I automate this, is this helping to empower where I want my workers to go? That's really important. And then my final soapbox point about this is sometimes we've created systems that create second order factor outputs, right, that are potentially harmful. And making those systems more advanced and better at doing it is something we need to be responsible for in the build of those automation workflows. I don't have a great example for it, but I would say it's something to watch out.
Things like AI slop that I know we've talked about on the show a lot, you've made it easier to create content. Doesn't mean that content's better.
Yeah, or less biased. Or not,
Yeah.
reinforcing stereotypes. Those are second order factors that we've created faster process for, but now we have increased risk and harm.
Really
Yeah,
good point.
I mean, I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but you only have to look at the things that Grok has been producing with all of the
Try not to.
the images of like removing clothes from underage children and women. That's quite a deliberately harmful one because the system shouldn't have been able to do that, and people have obviously used it maliciously. If people are not careful, and we did this in the workshop in Dublin with Chris in December, didn't we, Kevin? We were just using Copilot, which has all of Microsoft's enterprise controls and responsible AI controls mechanisms built in. We were able to get that to do things that you clearly shouldn't be able to get it to do.
Although, interestingly, I tried that again the other day, and I'm not going to say what it was in case we reveal too much of Chris's great sessions, but you can't do it anymore.
Really?
That red teaming has obviously been noticed. Too many of our people on the workshop tried it, and now they put a block to it. So I think that's a +1 to us.
Yeah, I'm going to go test that after this.
On a Friday night.
I know we're not covering too much news today. I'm so depressed to hear you can now use Grok within Copilot Studio has been enabled. I was just gobsmacked to hear that Microsoft's allowed that, but anyway, I will rant another time more at Microsoft than on this public side. But yeah, really not good news.
So when we think about human systems integration, Diana, any final tidbits you want to share with the audience?
I think it is brave in a time of uncertainty to open yourself to experimentation and to looking to see what works and what doesn't. And I think really individually, organizationally, accepting that we are all disrupted, sometimes in similar ways and sometimes in unique ways. And the only way forward is through, right? We can't shove our head in the sand about AI, and we can't just try and fly above it and say, oh my gosh, it's so great, and I've sent all these licenses to all my employees and that's enough, right?
I mean, I think one of the biggest call outs for me is that if we're looking at redesigning a specific process or a function or a job role, it can only be done with people who do that. It was one of the things we saw in the very early days of Copilot, where if you started talking to a middle-aged man who worked in IT and asked about use cases for finance or something like that, they just went down a rabbit hole of trying to imagine the way that finance would use this technology and the use cases that they thought finance would have. And they've never done that job. They don't know what the daily tasks are. They don't know what the daily workflow is. So this is something that has to
just
be done
Excel,
with.
so it's easy.
Say that again, Kevin.
It's just Excel. I've spoken to so many finance. It's just Excel.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. But like either way, finance people need to be involved in actually thinking about the evolution, but it needs to be done with people who actually understand the art of the possible for the technology, the principles of driving change management and behavior change, and with that kind of creativity to be able to think of that new experience and what the new world of work could look like.
And I think from that side, also think about why they would want to change as well. I've seen this so often that people struggle to drive change and they're like, why would they not want to do this? Why would they not want to? Find out what is it that is important to them. Because it's not always be more productive, funnily enough, to there. There's other things that people see as more important as an individual. So I think understanding that can help make that change happen. And that works at an individual, team, department, organisation level. That scales up as well. So Diana, I have one final question. Where can people go to find out more on this, either from things you've got, these kind of long essays you have out there, or where should people go and kind of learn more to sort of pick up more on this? Sorry, the archive website.
Not offhand.
Yeah, that'd be great. Interesting. Oh, I really like the sound of that. That's something to replace my doom scrolling with a bit of long form content. I do like that. Would be good. That I can hear Zoe saying, "Yes, please stop sending the groups too many videos. That would be ideal if you're reading those instead." Yeah,
I don't know.
Really good.
Between you and my friends, I get a constant barrage of reels. Brilliant. Well,
That was
Diana,
fantastic.
yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute blast. We'll definitely get you on again for future episodes, because I think this is going to be such a crucial area as we see where this journey into this AI world takes us.
For a minute, I thought you were going to say they said to use pen and paper instead, but I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was waiting for the designer chicken to pop up in the story.
I do have one final comment. I am so upset that both of you have cat towers in your background, and we haven't seen any cats appear in the background at all anywhere.
Yeah, they're locked out. I went for food with my partner before coming back upstairs for this call, and one of the cats is just completely obsessed with cheese. And my other half went and picked up some fresh stone-baked pizza from this little street food thing. And Mishka was hissing at us, literally trying to bat the pizza out of her hands. So they're banned. They've been naughty.
Yeah. Sensible. I have yes. We need to do that as a spin-off.
Yeah. So we've got a friend who nicknamed Kevin and I the Copilot cops for the sheer volume of corrections to people's spelling that we do on work systems and LinkedIn and generally anywhere that people spelt Copilot incorrectly. And Kevin pinged me earlier this week and said that we should be called the slop cops for pulling people up on the AI slop or work slop.
Oh, we should talk about that. Yeah.
But get AI to generate like a version with me and Kevin.
Just write that down on my whiteboard. Yeah. I did like, I think what triggered that is there's a new phrase. Instead of TLDR for too long didn't read, it's AIDR. AI didn't read. And I absolutely love that. It may be appearing on some LinkedIn comments soon.
Yeah, I mean, I want to comment that on nearly every LinkedIn post I read at the moment.
Yeah. Yes. No more slop. Anyway, I think we should wrap up there because we're thinking. But thank you so much for joining us and enjoy, especially as you have the rest of your work day to go today, Diana. So thank you for joining us. And will people be seeing you at the MVP Summit? Are you coming to that in March? Excellent. Of course, you would. Was it too late when you got your MVP? Okay, lost track of the time on that one. So, no, that's a shame. Hopefully we'll see you around soon at conferences too. That's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Diana. Thank you, Kevin. Have a fantastic weekend. And thank you for listening. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.